Next question. Dear Mattsons, our kids have grown up in church and we've consistently attended. My son recently left for college and is not going to church at all. What should I do? And I want this to be a priority for him. Sincerely, college dad. Well, I just want to say that to that college dad or that parent out there who's watching their child disconnect from their faith as they've left the home, just how hard that is. And I know that that isn't the desire that you had for them. And yet I want you to step back for a second and recognize who's really in control. That our God sees the big picture, and everybody has a story, right? And so if we all zoomed in on our stories in one of those chapters, we might all panic, right? We each have had some chapters where we're like, yikes, though, looks like a detour. So recognizing as a parent that God sees the big picture and that the story is not over just because there's this season where maybe they're questioning and doubting and struggling in their faith journey. And that grace, really at the core of our Christian faith, is that grace takes the long view, that it's really about what God is doing in that child on the big piece. And so maybe this is going to be a part of their story. So I want to give you that hope, but at the same time, it's really painful as you're watching their journey up close and personal. And so just a practical tidbit, as I would say, give them room to breathe, but stay connected to who they are as a person. Their walk with God is a huge value that you have, and obviously was an important part of what you raised in them, but get to know them as a young adult. Pursue them as a person, and to stay inquisitive about who they are and what they think and what they're exploring, because that really is the heart of God, that he pursues us, whether we're in the depths or we're in the heights, as Psalm 139 talks about. And so recognize as a parent, you have a choice. So don't smother them. Don't be hounding them with a bunch of Christianese. Wisdom, ask questions, be open, be a good listener, and pursue a relationship.
And you can pray for them consistently, right? Consistency is really important through this process and the journey. And that, going away to college is a really normal time to begin to ask and deconstruct what you believe, so that it actually is what you believe, and not what your parents taught you, or this and that, and so on. You have a core of your own in that space. Also, just to say to parents that are out there, there's such a big difference between attending church, and checking boxes off, kind of doing right stuff, thinking that that we've done what we needed to, right? And actually living out our faith in our homes in real time, both the struggles of that and the challenges of that, and the victories and the joys of all of that. Our kids, the research is pretty clear that they'll make a decision about what they believe pretty early on, and it's again, God can show up at any time in a person's life, but those sets of convictions and that they begin to take on in the rhythms of a home scenario happen early. So just encouragement for those parents that are raising younger kids out there, that to be intentional about not just checking boxes off of like attending church and going to church. There's so much more than that as it relates to establishing ourselves in our spiritual journey, and to have a fuller picture of that piece. If they see you as mom and dad living out your faith and actually talking about what that is, the struggles and the great times, that's so much more important and more powerful than just showing up and expecting the experts to be the ones to give your kids what they need, like at church, right? The vocational ministers, the pastors.
That's such a good point. And also just the reality that most kids that have a sticky faith, it's because their parents had a relationship with them. So they're not only modeling a relationship with God and what that looked like when they were worried about paying the bills or angry at one another and then had to ask for forgiveness, all of the tacky stuff that we do in bringing our faith into real life. Or when you pass by someone who's homeless, what are you doing and how are you talking about that? And all those things are sticky for our kids in terms of where does God meet us in our realities. And also just does your son and daughter feel that's the word, feel like you know them. And that really is what transfers into a God that they can lean into and recognize how to have a relationship with in all of their humanity. And so For that college dad, we just want to remind you the story's not over. And for those that have kids in the home, to remember that God is the God of it all. And so let your kids see how he meets you at the dinner table, when you're going to the grocery store, when you're grouchy. All of those moments count, and really help your kids to know that God really loves us and wants to walk with us all the days of our lives.
That's right. So remember that you're the right parent for the job. We're cheering you on.